Here we go.
I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so. In big playoff games, Ant-Man is routinely Can't-Man. Anthony Edwards ain't it. Ain't him. Because Ant-Man isn't that man, as in the man, when it really and truly matters. And by the way, this is the Skip Bayless Show, brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. But I did tell you so again and again and again last year at this time, in last year's Western Conference Finals featuring Ant-Man. Here we go again, same song, second verse. Overhyped, overrated, very good, but not that man, Can't-Man. And you say, well, he's only 23, soon to be 24, but come on now. He is concluding, I believe tonight, his 5th season in the National Basketball Association. That's 5 years of body of work. That is significant. That is rankable. We're not overreacting, although you overreacted and you overreacted when you crowned him. Look, I'm not a hater. I don't hate Anthony Edwards. I think he's a pretty good young man. I'm just a truth teller. And I'm not nitpicking. I'm just truth spitting. So many in the media, so many fans out there leaped the way Anthony Edwards leaps to the conclusion he got next. He's baby Jordan. He's the next Kobe. I mean, the advertisers leaped to your conclusion along with you to ride the wave because Anthony Edwards is already in every other sports commercial I see. He's Sprite. He's obviously Adidas. He's even Chipotle. He's everywhere because he's got next. He's got Jordan in him. He could be Kobe. He could, and he can't. Look, like everybody else, I saw the talent, but I said before his draft, I don't see that. I don't see what you're seeing. I saw the explosive leaping ability, obviously. It's Jordan-esque. I give you that. It's Kobe-esque. I give you that. I saw the shooting ability. I saw the distance shooting ability. I just haven't seen the performance when it really matters on a consistent basis. I haven't seen the fire and desire. I haven't seen the consistent fire in the belly that burns so hot for Michael Jeffrey Jordan and Kobe Bean Bryant. I'm sorry, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen what I'll call the fourth quarter gene. And quick point before I go on to clutch gene. Is he somewhat limited, Anthony Edwards? Remember, he's only 6 feet 4 inches tall. Jordan was 2 inches taller. Kobe was 3 inches taller. LeBron is 5 inches taller than Anthony Edwards is. Does that somewhat limit him at the highest of levels? Maybe. But this is different from LeBron bleeping James because I've always given LeBron this. He can be a beast in fourth quarters, but only in the first 6 or 8 minutes of fourth quarters. That's when he can be at his deadliest, at his beastliest. LeBron James. I mean, he can get you 12, 14, maybe 16 in a big stretch if he plays the whole fourth quarter from the start of the quarter to maybe the 3-minute mark. He can get you some points. Greatest scorer in the history of basketball. LeBron's problem is he disappears over the last 3 minutes. He self-destructs over the last 3 minutes of the fourth quarter. And Lord help him if you put the ball in his hands for a last shot, because he was not born with a clutch gene. He's made a few over time. My God, he's played, what is it now, 42 years? Blind squirrel. The point is, that's different than Anthony Edwards, because with Anthony Edwards, he just can't man for entire fourth quarters. I keep hearing, well, he looks tired. He looks tired in a Western Conference playoff game, fourth quarter. He looks tired. Did anybody ever say that Michael Jordan, even on flu game night, looked tired in the fourth quarter? Did anybody ever say that Kobe Bryant looked tired in the fourth quarter? No. I mean, the all-time greats don't get tired in the fourth quarter of big playoff games. You just don't. But it gets so bad for Anthony Edwards through fourth quarters that he just ain't there. Just gone. I don't know. I can give you details. I can walk you through this. So we're not talking about a lack of a clutch gene here. We're talking about the lack of a fourth quarter gene for Anthony Edwards in big playoff games. And now his body of work has grown to substantial proportions. So let's quickly look at his whole playoff record. So just so you think I'm not nitpicking here. So he has been in the playoffs. Way to go, kid. The last 4 years, 4 out of his 5. He's now played in 8 playoff series and is 4-4 in those playoff series. And up to date, up to this moment, his playoff record is 21-20. So he's just 1 game over 500 in playoff games. And in now 9 Western Conference Finals games. That's 9 because they played 5 against Dallas last year and were out in 5. And I believe they're going to be out in 5 tonight, but I'm not including that yet. So we're to 9 Western Conference playoff games. And in those games, if we look at the total picture, he's averaged 24, 8, 7, 3.3 turnovers. That's high, very high. He shot 46% from the floor, 36% from 3, not terrible. Only 72% from the free throw line, which is not good. But let's look harder, because he's lost 7 of those 9 games in the Western Conference Finals. Or I'll give you this, his team has, but he is the man on that team. So in the 7 losses, he's averaged only 22.9 points, 8, 6, 3 turnovers. But in the 7 losses, Anthony Edwards has shot 31.4% from 3. That's 16 of 51 in 7 Western Conference playoff losses. I got to tell you, that is horrendously bad, considering this is the young man who this regular season in the NBA led the entire league in attempts and makes, and shot 40% during the regular season from 3. Well, that's extraordinary. That's first team All-NBA kind of stuff. 40% from 3 while you're taking and making the most. That'll work. But now in your 7 Western Conference Finals losses, you've plummeted from 40% all the way down to 31.4%. That's just awful. Now let's quickly look at what happened last year against the Dallas Mavericks, then led by, of course, Luka and Kyrie. Would you believe that the Minnesota Timberwolves at home last year in the Western Conference Finals lost games 1 and 2, had home court advantage, and immediately lost all of it, lost 1 and 2, as Anthony Edwards shot a combined in those 2 games 11 of 33 from the floor? Well, that's just horrible. That's camp, man. So remember game 1? Anthony Edwards had a 3-point shot, good open look, with 2:31 left in that game to put his team up 4 points. I have to believe if he made it and just detonated the arena, that they got a really good chance of winning that game. If not, that would be a done deal. But he missed it. And then he faded down the stretch because he didn't take another shot, didn't register on the play-by-play after that, didn't do anything, as he is wont to do in fourth quarters. He just drifted and disappeared. And they lost that game 108-105 as Luka and Kyrie took over. Then game 2, this is do or die now at home because you got to win one of these, right? Game 2, the tone setter, Anthony Edwards, goes 5 of 17. And do you remember this with 12 seconds left? They're up 2 with 12 seconds left. Anthony Edwards just threw the ball out of bounds. I don't know. He just got a little overwhelmed by the pressure. I don't know. It was a horrible pass where you're saying, well, what was that? Who are you throwing it to? He just threw the ball out of bounds. Then Luka hit the big 3 over Gobert with 3 seconds left, but they had one last shot. And that play was called for Naz Reid, 6th man of the year, because Naz Reid in the game had, to that point, hit 7 of 8 threes. So I don't have a huge problem with it, except if you're Jordan, if you're Kobe, heck, if you're LeBron, you're just saying, give me the damn ball. You're just, I don't care about the 6th man. I want the basketball, and I'm going to shoot the basketball. And Naz Reid took the shot and did, as you know, miss the shot. 109-108 Dallas Mavericks. They're up 2-0 going home for game 3. Game 3 was 116-107 Dallas. It was tied 87 all, though, going to the fourth quarter. And remember, that was the one where Anthony Edwards had to leave the game for a while and go up the tunnel in Dallas to get some oxygen because he had hyperventilated. He was feeling so much pressure that he needed oxygen in the fourth quarter. This is the guy who's in every other commercial. This is baby Jordan, next Kobe. What? The next day I'm saying, what? Don't give me, what? And that was that. He had a very quiet fourth quarter, scored 4 points while Kyrie scored 14 points. Dallas pulled away to win the fourth quarter 29-20 in the game by 9. Then game 4 was his one. He always has the one good game, and he played pretty well in that game. I remember this stand-up interview that he did on the court after the game. He said, well, I finally figured out how to win. I finally figured out how to play a fourth quarter. And he played pretty well. He scored 6 points in the fourth, 3 of 7 shots, didn't take a 3 or get to the free throw line. But he was the 3rd leading scorer in that fourth quarter because Karl Anthony Towns had 10. Remember, he was a T-Wolf. And Rudy, Gobert had 8, so he was at 6, the third leading scorer, but he set more of a energetic, focused tone. But then game 5 is back. Minnesota became the closeout game. It was 124-103 Dallas. It was 35-19 after the first quarter. It was over in a hurry because no tone was set by Baby Jordan next Kobe. No tone set. His numbers were okay. He scored 28, had 9 and 6, but they were all inconsequential because he didn't set a fire in eyes tone the way he's capable of setting from the start. Which now brings me around to this season. Game I watched back in February at Oklahoma City. I think it was February 9th. Oklahoma City was up 24 early in the fourth quarter, and Chris Finch said, I have seen enough of Anthony Edwards, and he yanked him. And he sat him on the bench as Terrence Shannon, who has played very well, obviously, in this Western Conference Finals. And the other co-rookie, Rob Dillingham, came in and started leading the way. And they scratched and clawed all the way back from 24 down to tie the game and send it into overtime in Oklahoma City against the best team. And Anthony Edwards stayed on the bench the whole way. Even when they got close, you would think, well, you're going to put him back in. Nope. Chris Finch said, I've seen enough. He sits. Overtime started, no Ant-Man on the floor until there was 1:40 left in overtime. Game still close, and he finally put him back in. And he did have a nice block of a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander basket attack near the end of the game. It was actually a game-saving block, but he didn't score at all in the fourth quarter, at all in overtime, just for the record. And I was shocked by that. Then game 1 in the previous round this year against Golden State, previous round of the playoffs. Remember that? At home. Again, they've got home court over Steph and Jimmy and company. Golden State won that game 99-88. Steph played only 13 minutes because he pulled his hamstring and was gone for the rest of the playoffs, as you know. Scored 13 points in 13 minutes, but they lost 99-88 as Anthony Edwards shot 9 of 22, 1 of 5 from 3. And in the fourth quarter, he scored 1 point. 1 point. And Chris Finch actually blasted his superstar after the game. He blasted him. Here's the quote. It starts with Ant. I thought he struggled, and then you just kind of see the light go out for a little bit. Really? He goes on to say, Chris Finch, you're the leader of the team. You've got to come out and set the tone. If your shot isn't going, you still have to carry the energy. Yes, you do. No, he did not. This is Ant-Man. Every other commercial. Baby Jordan, next Kobe. No. So here we went again, another Western Conference Finals for young Anthony Edwards. Game 1 at Oklahoma City. It was 114-88 Thunder. Anthony Edwards went 5 of 13, 3 of 8 from 3, but he was a minus 23. And after the game, pardon my language, but I need to quote it because of what happened after he said it. He said to the media, I only took 13 fucking shots. That cost him $50,000, which made him in the hole $430,000 in fines just this season, just for this season. I saw a young man who plays frustrated, who gets tired, who gets mentally worn out from the escalating pressure on him. I don't completely condemn him for this. In fact, I don't blame him at all because he's tried to make it clear he's a reluctant superstar. He doesn't want this pressure. He's not built for this pressure. As he says, he does not want to be the face of the league. He told, I think it was TNT, back around All-Star break, about being the face of the league. He said, I'm capable of being that guy, but I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy who just shows up and hoops and just kills dudes and goes home. Okay, gotcha. Understand. But the world is saying you're the face because you got next. And you're saying, please leave me alone. This is driving me crazy. I'm losing it, man. I'm getting mad at referees, not getting calls. I'm getting fined. I'm getting this. I'm getting that. $430,000 in the hole. Because I'm not comfortable. I'm just not in any kind of comfort zone because I ain't that. And I don't want to be that. Okay, so game 2, he played better. He scored 32, but they lost 118-103 because he went 1 of 9 from 3 in game 2. 1 of 9, he was a minus 22. So in the 2 games in Oklahoma City, minus 23, minus 22. Game worst, team worst. Then game 3, kaboom. He took a lot of heat from the media, both locally and nationally. Where are you, Ant-Man? Earth to Ant-Man, APB for Ant-Man. And he rose and he shone. Remember that first quarter? He came out with fire in eyes, fire in belly, just breathing fire all over the Thunder. I loved it. Not for my Thunder. I'm a Thunder fan from Oklahoma City, but I loved it for him because it hurts me to watch him go through the agony of trying to live up to everybody's overhype that he doesn't want. But in that first quarter, he lived up. He gave you 16, 5, and 2 in the first quarter. He made 3 threes in the first quarter. And what did I say after the game? Right after the game, posted a video saying, I believe that will just be an indictment of Anthony Edwards. That it will serve as an indictment because you'll say, well, where were you all those other games? And where are you going forward? Indictment. Because game 4, still in Ant-Man's house. He's the guy. He's got to set the tone. Didn't set the tone. It was, are we there yet? It was, I gave you a flash. I gave you all I had. I gave you a quarter, man. Isn't that enough? No, that's not enough, Ant-Man. So in game 4 at home, this is do or die. You're facing going down 3-1 to the best team. Anthony Edwards in game 4 at Minnesota scored 16 with only 4 rebounds and 6 assists and 5 turnovers and went 1 of 7 from 3. And I kept hearing during the game, or at least I heard once or twice, he just looks tired in the fourth quarter. I don't know, man. It was a great game to watch, but did not feature the quote-unquote superstar Anthony Edwards because it was all about, as Shaq calls them, the others. Every time I looked up, one of the others was making another big shot. Alexander Walker in particular, cousin of SGA. Every time I looked up, he was making another 3. Jaden McDaniels making another 3. Everybody played great except for the greatest. And in the fourth quarter, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just kept making shots. And Jalen Williams, all-star, second-team all-defense this year, just kept making big shots, bigger and bigger shots. And it felt like they finally just broke the will of the home team, 128-126 Thunder. Then I saw a clip from First Take. Kendrick Perkins was on First Take. The question that was being asked, did we crown Ant-Man too soon? Well, duh. But Kendrick said, in defense of Anthony Edwards, you got to check all the boxes when you're the face of the league. And he mentioned Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaq, LeBron, Steph. They were all married with kids. You've got to be a role model, said Kendrick. Okay, there's a little bit of truth to that. But the irony of the statement is that if you really know about these guys, either publicly or a lot privately, you know they're not the greatest role models. Really, none of them are the greatest role models. That includes LeBron and Steph. You know what happened to Kobe, obviously, in Colorado. But they were all married with kids. I give you that. And yet, even though there are a few grains of truth in the league needs the face to be an upstanding citizen, Anthony Edwards has been an upstanding citizen. I don't know of anything he's done terribly wrong. He did have that one post that featured a gay slur. That was bad. But in general, he hasn't broken any laws that I'm aware of, hasn't had any police blotter incidents that I'm aware of, does have a daughter, I guess is not married to the woman. I'm not sure what that situation is, but they did have a daughter together a year or so ago. Brings her to the games. But the point is, the larger point is that Kendrick, and I love Perk, but the point is he's not living up on the court to being the face of the league, and he's told you he doesn't want to be the face of the league. So that's all that really matters here right now, is the league did try to make him the face of the league. Madison Avenue did try to made him the face of the league. And he's just not backing it up when it matters most in back-to-back Western Conference finals. He's not backing it up on the court. That's all that really matters. So he did shoot 40% from the floor from three in the regular season. Again, led in attempts, led in makes. Tremendous. Way to go. But in 3 losses now to the Oklahoma City Thunder, he's 5 of 24 from 3, which is 20.8%. Think about that. In the 3 biggest games of the year, the ones that mattered the most, he's 5 of 24 from 3. Wow. So in the 4 games against Oklahoma City, he's only 31.3% from 3. So he is stinking it up from 3, which is what he does best. And by the way, he did have a career best from the free throw line during this regular season, 84%. That'll work. That's what Jordan was career, 84%. Against Oklahoma City, he's 18 of 26, so that's only 69.2%. So when it matters most from the free throw line, when his team needs him the most, because he is supposed to be the man, the tone setter, the table setter, he has been abominable from 3 and the free throw line. That sounds like LeBron James to me. And if you look harder, this was amusing to me. If you look harder at MVP SGA versus Ant-Man. Look what happened in game 3. Ant came out and had that sensational first quarter, the indictment quarter. What happened? It shocked me, and I think it shocked Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that he got booed every time he touched the ball in Minnesota. Well, it's not like he's done anything to the Timberwolves to incite their fandom. He hasn't given the choke sign to their fandom or done any or said anything that I'm aware of that would make them boo him every time he touches the ball, except that he usurped the one who got crowned, that it was supposed to be Anthony Edwards MVP, and they're booing Shai because he won MVP, not because he did anything to Minnesota, except he beat them and beat them and beat them some more. But so they're booing him, and I think it actually shook Shai a little bit. I think his energy was off early. He didn't set the tone. That was the 42-point blowout. But Shai sucked it up and said, okay, I know what I have to do. Watch this. And he throws a 40 burger at those fans in game 4. He scored 40. He had a lot of help from Jalen Williams and from Chet Holmgren, but he went for 40 because he figured out how to rise above the distraction and the pressure of getting booed every time he touched the ball. So now we've seen these two play 8 games against each other this season, 4-4, regular, post. And in those 8 games, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has averaged 33, 6, and 8. He shot 47% from the floor and 42% from 3 in those 8 games. And he's a plus 37. Anthony Edwards has averaged 10 points fewer, 23 a game, 33 down to 23. He has averaged 9 rebounds, which is great, and 6 assists, which is very good. But he's only 43% from the floor and 31% from 3 in 8 games, 4 regular, 4 post. 31% from 3, only 73% from the free throw line, not good. And he's a minus 23. So the man in Oklahoma City is plus 37 in those 8 to minus 23 for Anthony Edwards. He is getting outplayed consistently by SGA, who has won 7 of 8 games because SGA 7 out of 8 times has outplayed Ant-Man, Can't-Man. So I'll end with a couple of quick comments that we saw on X about this subject and situation. And I like both of these very much. This is from @Kyrell Buckley, who says, Ant-Man is a great young player, but people don't understand the gap between a player like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who averages 32, shooting 52% from the field, and a player like Ant, who shoots 44, 45% from the field. It's a different level. It's a different level of consistency, but to know this, you have to actually understand basketball at a high level. I agree. Shai is a much better basketball player, especially under fire, than Ant-Man. But Shai isn't nearly as dazzling, as exciting, as box office as Ant-Man can be with those Jordan-esque, Kobe-esque dunks. Shai is not a dunker. Nobody attacks the basket more than he does. He led the whole league in basket attacks, but he ends up finishing softly with great touch off the glass from all sorts of angles. He has become, I know Kevin Durant is still going and still a factor, but to me, Shai has become the best mid-range jump shooter in the game. He's just automatic. Nobody can get to a spot the way Shai can get to his spot and just go up over any defender and just softly can shot after shot after shot under pressure. Not a huge three-point shooter, but he continues to improve to Shai. He just doesn't take and make nearly as many as Ant-Man did during the regular season. But this leads to the final comment. This is from @Thunders12345 obviously an OKC fan, who says, Cant-Man is a waste of God-given generational talent. Dude just stands out and shoots threes. By the way, this generation of kids compared him to Jordan, LOL. Please don't ever take any little kid on X seriously. None of them know, pardon my language, shit about basketball. Okay. So Ant-Man has one last chance tonight to redeem himself. I do expect him to play very well, but I expect my Oklahoma City Thunder, because of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, to put their foot down and say, no, it's over, on to the NBA Finals. So now it's time for my NBA Game 5 picks. And by the way, if you are thinking about betting a couple bucks on these games upcoming, the only place to start is FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. It's the Cowboys, the Lakers, the Yankees all rolled into one. The place to be, the dominant franchise, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. It's the place to find all the best player props, get the latest stats right inside the app. You can see who's heating up, who's consistently hitting the over, who's flirting with triple doubles. And once the game starts, man, it can get really hot and interesting quickly when you can combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. So why not give FanDuel a shot today? You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com right now. You might as well just give it a shot. FanDuel.com and add on a /SKIP. Use my first name, /Skip, to join today. Do it now. FanDuel.com /Skip. On to my picks. Game 5. This is at Thunder. Favored by 8.5. I know it's a lot of points. And Minnesota has a very good, very deep basketball team. Terrence Shannon impresses me more and more as a rookie. Naz Reid just stroking those threes. Alexander Walker coming off the bench and just heating up. Speaking of heating up, I just feel like that Minnesota gave it its best shot in Game 4. Not Ant-Man, but as a team, that was their best shot because they made shot after clutch shot after clutch shot. And every single time Oklahoma City said no, no, no. Every single time Oklahoma City canceled what had just happened by making an even more clutch shot. So I'm going to say it's the equivalent of a high-level Wimbledon finals, a tennis match, French Open now, where you have two great players and they just match shot after shot after shot, back and forth across the net. And finally, one player psychologically just breaks the will of the other player. That's what I saw in Game 4. I believe that Minnesota's will was broken and that my Thunder will cover that 8.5 tonight. Now, I did tell you they would cover the 3 in Game 4 that they were favored by. And I was wrong about that, but I was right about who was going to win because after they lost by 42, I immediately dropped a video saying we, as in Thunder, will win Game 4. We will win. I booked it. I guaranteed it. And they backed me up. But as I made my pick against the line, I said, man, this could be really close because I could see them winning by 2 or 3 or 4. But they're going to have to win by 4 to cover. And obviously they won only by 2. It was seesaw back and forth. Could have gone either way. But I stood by my pick, and my pick was correct, but not the spread. Which brings me to the Knicks. Once again, they gave it their best shot offensively. My problem with the Knicks is that despite Thibodeau's reputation as a defensive coordinator, a defensive guru, a defensive motivator, they just don't play a lot of defense, especially when it matters in fourth quarters. I don't know if they get tired because they don't play enough. I know he played more players last night, but come on, man. I just see Halliburton just take the ball at the top of the circle and just drive down the lane. And all of a sudden I'm saying nobody's home. And he dunks it or lays it off the glass, whatever. It's just layup. It's a layup line. They just don't play enough defense. I love them on offense. Heroic offense. You know, they're going to make big shots. Anunoby made one at the clock last night that was just spectacular. Heavily guarded, threw it in from 40 feet. Jalen Brunson is just a little warrior. I love watching them figure out how to play offense, but I don't love them on defense. I do think the Pacers have broken their will. And I was shocked. I usually try to bet what the spread will be. Guess spreads, not bet them, but guess. And I just thought this would be more of a pick'em type game. And the Knicks are favored by 5 because Vegas is saying they're going to get a lot of action. But Vegas is basically saying this is their do or die. They're going to give you all they got and try to get it back to Indy for a game 6. And I hope they do. I am rooting like crazy. I picked the Pacers to win the series, but I'm rooting like crazy for the Knicks because of Stephen A. Smith and Spike Lee, 2 friends of mine who would be great foes in an NBA Finals. Whew, would I love that? Would I love to see my hometown of Oklahoma City versus their hometown of New York City? Whew. My wife, Ernestine, big Knicks fan. Would I love that in my household, that constant clash? It would be great backstory. It would be great narrative. It would be sensational theater. It would bring new life to what could be a dreadfully boring for most of America NBA Finals. I needed Knicks versus Thunder, and it sure looks like I'm going to get Pacers versus Thunder. I'll just book it. I'm going to get Pacers versus Thunder. And by the way, the Thunder will win in 5 over the Pacers. It's kind of a mismatch. They don't play great defense either. They are going to get hit in the mouth with a force unlike anything they've seen from the Knicks on defense. It's going to take them a while to recalibrate for the Oklahoma City defense. But again, for this game, I'll take the 5. Give me Pacers in 5. Yep, I'll take that, and I will run with that. FanDuel.com/skip. Now I'd like to talk about the word punk. P-U-N-K, punk. A word I hear used a lot in sports today. I hear it a lot used by sports media commentators. I want to talk about the word punk and its etymology, its origin, its evolution. I first heard the word punk when I was 3 years old. And you say, how do you remember what you heard when you're 3? I've got one of those, what's called autobiographical memory. I can tell you what I got for Christmas when I was 3 years old. I can see it all like it was yesterday when I was 3 years old. But I first heard it in the backyard, or maybe went to the lake. I can't remember that, because we often went to the lake. I think it was in the backyard. I heard the word punk on the 4th of July because a punk was this stick that you used. It was like made of, I think, bamboo covered with some sort of sawdust, I believe it was. It's a slow burning stick, punk, that you used to light the firecrackers, because you don't have to light a match and then light a fuse. You could just reach over with this sort of stick and touch the end of the the fuse on the ladyfinger or the black cat or these different kinds of fireworks that we had back then, and it would set the fuse to burning and the little bomb would explode in the backyard. Why we celebrate the 4th of July by lighting little bombs in the backyard, I'll never know. But that's what we did, and that's the first time I heard the word punk. Then when I got to grade school, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I began to hear the word punk used. Punks were juvenile delinquents, let's call them. They were troublemakers. They were kids who robbed, kids who would sucker punch you in a fight, kids who carried knives. They were punks, juvenile delinquents. They could be what you'd call in those days hoods, as in hoodlums, but punks were just bad kids, not necessarily tough kids, just bad kids. But more and more, as I grew up, the word punk was just used for losers. He's just a punk. He's weak-minded. He's untough. He's a weak-minded, untough loser. That's a punk. That was a punk to me. But then I got into sports writing, covering teams, covering ultimately the Dallas Cowboys, late 70s, 80s. And I began to hear the word punk used as a gay slur. Punk. Now, maybe this was used more by the black players than the white players. I don't remember that I heard a white player use punk as a gay slur. But the phrase I occasionally heard from a lot of the black players I knew very well was, he's as happy as a punk in Boys Town. I'll say it again. He's as happy as a punk in Boys Town. Then somehow the term punk morphed into a verb. It morphed into a TV show. You got punked. You got fooled. You got duped. You got set up and suckered and embarrassed. You were a fool. And then the verb punked somehow evolved into part of the sports lexicon. What? Especially in basketball. When one team was more physical than another team, when it got bullied, especially on the backboards, rebounds, the losing players sometimes said, "We got punked." And I began to hear a lot of sports commentators use this term. I'm talking about ex-player commentators, just media members. Again and again, I heard the term punked. They got straight up punked tonight. They were soft. They were weak, mentally and physically weak. They got punked. I'm pretty sure that term evolved from a gay slur. In fact, just me, I consider that term a gay slur. And I flinch and I wince every single time I hear it spoken on television or radio or on digital shows. I flinch and I wince. And I think to myself, how can you get away with saying that publicly? That? I mean, I sometimes wonder, does the gay community understand the origin of that word? Is nobody in the gay community offended by the very public use of that word? I don't know. I guess not. Quick thought. Many, many times when Ernestine and I have needed a gift, Christmas gift, birthday gift, thank you gift, we've ordered from Omaha Steaks and sent those gifts And invariably, we have been texted back, thank you so much for the Omaha Steaks. We're barbecuing them. We're savoring them. Thank you so much. So you can gift Omaha Steaks to yourself. You can bring home the world's best steak experience with Omaha Steaks. You can visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during what is continuing to be a Memorial Day sale. And for an extra $35 off, use the promo code SKIP. Just use my first name, SKIP, promo code SKIP at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, $35 off if you use SKIP at checkout for your promo code. See site for details. So, my man Terry Bradshaw went on an Arkansas radio show yesterday, and he blasted the franchise for which he won 4 Super Bowls with 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Terry Bradshaw said this about the Pittsburgh Steelers' ongoing, never-ending pursuit of 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, and I quote, "That to me is just a joke," said Terry Bradshaw. "What are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? That guy needs to stay in California, go somewhere and chew on bark and whisper to the gods out there," said Terry Bradshaw. That's exactly what I've been saying and what I said from the start about this. But I didn't win 4 Super Bowls for the Steelers, who, by the way, continue to get a pass because of their glorious past, P-A-S-T, past tense. When Aaron Rodgers was first connected with the Steelers publicly, reportedly, media speculation, I said, no, please, no. Not the once proud cornerstone NFL franchise in Pittsburgh, PA. Not that one. Aaron Rodgers is washed, I said, during and after the season. Can't move. He's lost the fire in his belly. Doesn't really care about winning or even competing. He's lost a touch off his release time, lost some arm strength. He's just washed. He's just interested now in the Steelers because he wants to steal another. I don't know how much they'd have to pay him, 40, 50 million. And I'm thinking, not the Steelers. Don't tell me they are getting so desperate that they would stoop and beg what's left of Aaron Rodgers to come play for them, not the Steelers. I mean, right now, Mason Rudolph would play more effective quarterback than Aaron Rodgers is capable of playing at 41. And then I think, wait, Mason Rudolph is all that's left in Pittsburgh? You mean the Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, haven't even come close to replacing Ben Roethlisberger since he walked into the sunset? By the way, the same Ben, Big Ben, who needed to be replaced about 3 years before he did finally retire. That guy. Man, as I keep asking publicly, what has become of the once mighty Pittsburgh Steelers? Terry Bradshaw also blasted the Steelers for mishandling and ultimately ruining Kenny Pickett, who wound up last year being a backup quarterback in Philadelphia, and he's now one of 5 quarterbacks in Cleveland. So allow me to read an email that I received recently that I didn't get to on a previous show. Let's see if I can get through this one. This is Jeff from Montgomery, Alabama. He wrote into Ask Skip at realskipbayless.com. He said, "Skip, I love you, but you are way," this is all caps, W-A-A-A-A-Y, way off on mediocre Mike Tomlin, said Jeff from Montgomery, obviously a Steelers fan. He went on to say he's the head coach version of Aaron Rodgers, only he lost to Aaron and to Mike McCarthy almost 2 decades ago, parentheses, which was about the last time the Steelers were even a threat, close parentheses. Jeff goes on to say, you pound your fist about the loser that Mike McCarthy is, but at least he won a playoff game this decade. No one is more overrated or overprotected than Mike Tomlin. And Jeff concludes, name one other coach that postseason results over a winless postseason stretch of damn near 10 years would get a yearly pass and even a contract extension. Wow. Man, you got me. I've been the biggest Mike Tomlin fan. I have defended and supported Mike Tomlin. But Jeff is right. He is getting a pass because of his past, P-A-S-T, and the Steelers' P-A-S-T past. And now, the harder I look, the more I start to think, are the Steelers capable of winning the Arch Manning Derby? If, in fact, Arch is going to be the number 1 overall pick, are they capable of that this year? I'd say very possibly. And to conclude on my man Terry Bradshaw, talk about fire and belly. I'll never forget the time I didn't know Terry that well. He was living in Dallas. I was working as the columnist in Dallas. I think this was 1986. I was a member at Las Colinas Sports Club to play golf and basketball because they had a really nice half-court gym there on a tartan sort of surface. Great for your knees. And I wound up one afternoon playing in a 3-on-3 just pickup basketball game with Terry Bradshaw. He was on the other team. And we played, and we finished, and we're all sweaty, and we got a good workout in, had fun. We kind of knew each other, but not that well. So we kind of walked together down a long hall toward the men's locker room, and he stopped me just before we got to the door of the men's locker room. And he got very emotional, as he is wont to do. He wears emotions on both sleeves. And he kind of pushed me up against the wall in a good way because he was really trying to drive home a point, put his hands on my shoulders like this and shook me up against the wall. And he said, somebody needs to tell the truth about Tom Landry, then God's coach for the Dallas Cowboys. I ended up writing a book about this 3 years later. Terry said, somebody's got to tell the truth that it's time for him to go. He's lost it. It's time for him to go. And somebody, meaning this somebody, needs to tell the truth. And those words inspired me, and I did start to tell the truth about Mount Landry, who in 87 and 88, as they fell to 3-13, got so bad that during games, he was forgetting players' names during games, forgetting plays and play calls during games. It was just time for him to go. And Terry wanted me to express that publicly, and I did. And now Terry is very publicly expressing that the Pittsburgh Steelers, the once mighty Steelers, should have nothing to do with the guy who should just stay in California and chew some bark. Now that's a bark. Headline: WNBA unable to verify, quote, hateful fan comments, unquote, toward Angel Reese. Okay. Here's the league statement that was issued. We have investigated the report of racist fan behavior in the vicinity of the court during the May 17, 2025 Chicago Sky at Indiana Fever game Based on information gathered to date, including from relevant fans, team, and arena staff, as well as audio and video review of the game, we have not substantiated it. The WNBA is committed to fostering a safe and inclusive environment for everyone and will continue to be vigilant in enforcing our fan code of conduct. Boom. I believe the league conducted an extremely thorough investigation of this alleged incident. The players in this league are 60+% Black. And the WNBA is and should be extremely committed to protecting its players from racist comments made to players in the arena during games. But here's the issue facing Angel Reese. After bad losses, she sometimes publicly plays the victim. Racist comments were directed at her in the arena or especially on social media. And I don't doubt she has heard some in arenas and read a number of racist remarks on social media. And as I continue to say to all WNBA players, just don't read them. You're not obligated to read them. Don't allow them to imprison you. You don't have to read them. You shouldn't read them. You shouldn't allow them in your psyches. They're going to be out there. Don't seek them out. Don't let them come in to your house and your brain. Just don't read them. I don't. You shouldn't. But in that opener at Indiana, Angel Reese's team, the Sky, lost 93-58. And Angel's arch rival in that game, Caitlin Clark, did have a triple-double. But Caitlin did give Angel a very unnecessary shove at the end of a hard foul. And Caitlin did get and did deserve a technical foul for that little shove, even though Caitlin just called it a basketball play, which it was not. It was a shove. It was intentional. And it was meaningful. Arch rivals. But still, Angel and company lost that game badly. So the question becomes, how often is she going to deflect blame after a tough loss onto racist comments? Did a white fan actually yell something out of bounds at Angel after she and Caitlin got into it? She jumped up as she was in the right to and tried to go at Caitlin and was restrained by her teammates. I don't know if anything was said. I have no way. I just have to go by what the WNBA said, which was no evidence. Were racist remarks intended for Angel that night on social media? I'm sure some were. They're always going to be there. But should any of those kind of remarks be used as excuses or blame deflection after bad losses, especially to Caitlin Clark? Look, I'm obviously white. Maybe I just don't get it. But after a while, you say to yourself, come on, Angel, not every single time. Look, Angel Reese is on her way to becoming the greatest rebounder in WNBA history, and she's now the first to score 500 points with 500 rebounds. No one's ever done that this quickly. As you know, Angel has become a force on social media. She is so charismatic. She is so dynamic. And she has made her outrage extremely clear over those racist comments that she has heard. and she should continue to do exactly that. But she should pick her spots. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Tyler Korn for producing, to Ernestine for overseeing, and of course to Hazel for approving.